There is the big T coming onto the table, timeout being called, and therefore Tobias has more life points than Daniel. So we see Crystal Beast actually taking the W here in round 3, and the crowd loves it. Yep. We have a lot of cheering going on. The crowd is super happy about it, as we are, honestly. Yeah. Crystal Beast, such a beautiful deck.
There's a massive crowd here, and people are really happy about seeing Crystal Beast. And I mean, it is a really big rogue deck. People don't really expect it, so I can only imagine what it's going to be like when you're sitting there with your probably Sprite deck in round 3, table 1, and your opponent comes there and looks you dead in the eye and says, normal summon Pegasus?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
What's going on, Tobias?
I mean, I just woke up, so not much yet.
There we go. And it's like 11:30 over where I'm at, so these are real gaming hours for both of us, huh?
Yes.
Of course.
The best gaming hours. Start early and end late. That's what we like to see.
Of course. Especially because you had a one heck of a weekend, didn't you? You had quite the weekend.
I did.
You made Crystal Beast YCS history, making day 2 with the deck. How does it feel?
It felt great. I mean, the deck was just very fun to play. There's not much else to say about it.
Yeah, for sure. So, first of all, just kind of wanted to ask you, how was your tournament experience overall? Did you have any blowout games, anything that you saw noteworthy in particular? Obviously, the feature match was something big and something great to showcase for all the Crystal Beast players. But overall, just talk about your tournament experience and how you enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, the feature match was just the most fun part of the whole tournament, because they were just sitting there with all the people watching live on stream and also there. And I mean, it was most of the time it was just I would play it, and the moment I would drop any Crystal Beast card, my opponent would like look shocked and just read every card from then. Like they have been just reading the entire day the moment they played against me.
Yeah,
because they had no clue what any of the cards did.
That makes sense. Something that we're all familiar with playing rogue decks at any point. For sure. Yeah. It gets annoying, but at the same time, you can't deny that opponents' look on their face just looks priceless.
That's true, and it's also technically a win con, because if they don't read, then they just basically lose because they don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And
so they are forced to read.
Yeah, and Yu-Gi-Oh players are notorious for that very reason, not reading.
Yes. Reading is quite hard.
How difficult would you say the deck was to play during the whole time? Did you feel yourself kind of burning out mentally while you're playing the deck, or was it kind of more on the easy side to play?
Well, I mean, the last round we had was at like 10 p.m. So at that point I was mostly fried, but that's just because it was like a very long day, because it was just 12 hours of Yu-Gi-Oh basically.
Yeah.
But then with all the stops, because we had like so many overtimes because they just couldn't fix their stuff, so then we would just be waiting for an hour and just nothing would be happening. So at the end of the day, it was like, I'm very fried, but it was not that exhausting if I would have played like a combo deck that I was planning on playing.
Right. Yeah, because I think you said in your interview that you were going to play Tearlament for this event, right?
Yes, I was actually planning on playing Punk Tearlament Sprite Danger until the ban list came. And then I've been testing with Tearlament Sprite, but it was just not consistent enough. So I was like, why not just play Crystal Beast?
There we go. And what made you decide on Crystal Beast?
Well, the new structures had just released, so I just got like the new cards out of it, and I did not like test it with the new cards yet. I basically built the deck like last week, and I just started testing with some cards, and I could like borrow the prosperities from someone, and eventually I just had this list and it started working. So I was like, why not just take it with me there?
Yeah, of course. And obviously you performed super well. I mean, this is the farthest that Crystal Beast has ever gotten at a YCS. Crystal Beast historically has never made day 2 at a YCS, and you're the first person to crack in.
Yeah, that was like something that actually hit me when I came back yesterday, because I was thinking about it. Like, I don't think it's like the new Crystal Beast cards have tops from regionals, but I didn't think they would have ever been at day 2, except for then yesterday.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, shout outs to James McIntyre for making top 8 at the New Zealand regional. But I mean, I would say that day 2 at a YCS maybe squeaks out a regional top 8. especially because the New Zealand regional had 55 players. So there's some questions as to, how not viable or like
that's the thing with regionals, in my opinion. Like, it's basically just a bigger locals with a little bit more price support.
yeah.
Like,
So
it's still very fun to do, but it's like not as impactful as like a 2100 person YCS.
exactly, this YCS was just ginormous.
In day 2, I won the first one, and then I lost the 2 last ones, so I ended somewhere around 200. Yeah, it's still the top 10%, and it could have definitely been better, but it was just like the last matchup was probably the hardest for this deck.
Yeah.
So it was quite tough because Runic Sprite that actually like won the tournament was like so strong against this deck.
Yeah.
It's probably the most hard counter this deck can get because of the quick play destruction of spells and traps, the quick play destruction of monsters, banishing like all your stuff, and then like banishing all the cards I need, and then you can't really recycle them anymore.
Yeah. If they hit a key piece, then it's lights out sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and talk about your deck list? We can go through the card by card, and you can kind of explain your choices and how they came up during the tournament.
Yeah, of course. Well, like the three Pegasus is standard.
Yeah, at the same time, I do want to talk about this as if we both are familiar with Conclave Control. So we know kind of the standard list. We can talk more about your spicy techs and what you've included in here specifically. Like, you're holding it, that Cobalt Eagle.
Yeah, because this is standard, right? You can play like a third Zenith, that's also fine, but like the other lineup is standard. But yeah, the Eagle is only for one reason. It's actually two. It's level 4, and it's a winged beast. So when Tikaboo is up, I can still just play through it and still go to every rank 4 I have because Tiger and Mammoth are also both beasts, so they all clash with Pegasus. So that was the main reason for the Cobalt Eagle, and it's also because when they have, I always forget if Rivalry or Gozen Match is the one with attributes, but then it's also just another name to summon.
Right. And at the same time, in the past we've played Cobalt Eagle to play around there can be only one. You summon Pegasus, and then Zenith summon Eagle, make Tornado Dragon, and that outs the Theircan. But at the same time, we could just play Theircan ourselves, and then it's just awesome to see it included.
We can just fully play underneath it because we have like a beast, a winged beast, and then a dragon on field, and just like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, right.
Well, and then next roll is just like shifters. You could play them in the side, but especially for this YCS, there was gonna be so much tier element, and this card is just insane.
Yeah, 100%. I think
it's like the best card of the deck by far.
Yeah, for sure. And I think your philosophy of no hand traps is absolutely critical here. If you're going to play a hand trap, why not make it a floodgate? We have Droll, Lancia, Shifter, and Shifter is definitely the most impactful one of this format, with Tier being the best deck. But you play like Ash, you play Bell. They just don't seem super impactful right now. Your opponent could just keep playing. Ash on Havness is really the best you can get, but yeah, Shifter as our only hand trap, I wholeheartedly back you up on that one.
Especially this format, I don't really like hand traps, and I also don't really like board breakers that much, except for when you're going second, like in the side deck, because you just don't know what they're gonna end on, because they could end on the most broken board, and you'll just say scoop instantly, or they just don't have their mills and just go somewhere else, and then it's only have back row, and then a Dark Ruler does nothing anymore. So it's very you can't really expect them to make a full board or go a certain way that hand traps or board breakers really inflict damage.
100%.
Well, and then next, this is also standard. You have to play 3 because they're just the best cards of your deck.
100%.
I actually did decide to also play 3 of this. I played 2 on the YCS, but right after I played another side event, and I actually added the 3rd because I did miss the extra recycle from Grave, because the 2 sometimes wasn't enough. I would just miss that 1 extra summon.
100%. And it's super good because it's tough. We almost want to play this card at 2.5 because it bricks if you don't have access to the Rainbow Dragon. They ash the Zenith, or you just don't have access to it at all. So in theory, it can be bricky, but it's the 3rd one comes up way more than you'd think, right?
Yeah, you really need it, and I will talk about it later. But there were also like some cards I was gonna cut, and then it would just with this one more, it would just been to 40, and then would be fine.
Hmm.
So like it would be 40 deck list instead of 41.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. And then going back to Awakening just one more time.
yeah.
Did you say you cut out the triple tax for it when you went for your side events?
Yes. With the side events, I just cut out the triple text and just added one more, and then just played 40.
Hmm.
Because the triple tactics that basically no impact. I've seen them, I think, twice and could only use them once, and it was to bait and negate, and that was about all it did. So it was like I'd
Yeah.
rather just go for the extra consistency and then play a third of the summon slash search one.
Yeah.
Most of the time when I would go second, it would depend a little bit on the matchup, but like the 3 Lightning Storm and then like 3 Super Poly slash 3 Dark Cooler was the standard what I would side in.
Hmm.
So I would sign out like, because I'm going second, the 3 Tikaboo, the 2 Summon Limit, and 1 Conclave. Because that would be like then I would have less traps, so I wouldn't like go second and just open a handful of traps, and then just instead of that just have board breakers and then just still have
Yeah.
combo. And then especially against Tearlament, we would still have Shifter, and then if it wasn't Tearlament or deck that uses the Grave, I would just cut the Shifter and play something else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, well then next, we had the Bond, and I had some people ask like, why don't you play 3 Bonds? Because Bond is insane, and basically because I play not that many monsters, like I could resolve 1 Bond, and most of the time the second one I couldn't even play anymore, and when
Yeah.
it would come up, it was just like, yeah, sure, why not just activate it for the extra card, but it doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
So like the third one would have never come up, and I don't think it ever will, because it's just not needed with this like little amount of Crystal Beast.
Yeah, especially because of how highly searchable it is too.
Yeah.
Bond has the extra utility of being able to bounce something under Bridge of the Heart. So, did you ever find yourself doing that too? Like, if you have Mine up, you can Bridge of the Heart and then Bond and then crystallize something, then bounce something in Bridge of the Heart.
I have done like it once, but actually I used Bond most of the time, because then I would just like open Pegasus with Bond, and I was like, well, why not just add like the Zenith to hand and just get another beat stick?
Yeah,
Like
100%.
I've added Zenith with Bond more than Pegasus this tournament.
Wow,
Just
that's
because
crazy.
the Pegasus access was like more accessible, also with the Foolish Burial Goods.
Yeah, no, Bond definitely should be played at like 1 or 2 because of how searchable it is. It's
Yeah.
people who don't play the deck want to play it at 3, but then you and I, people who actually play the deck, were like, no, we understand like where Bond role really is in this deck.
Yeah, I have like multiple people that like I played that knew the old cards and not the new cards. So they were, when I placed Bond, they would say, "Oh, it's the broken card," instead, because they didn't know like this existed.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, then after that, because like the bonds, well, bonds are bonds. They just good, but not too many. Well, with the Foolish Goods, like the problem here is because they clash with Shifter. I didn't want to see them too many times. Like, yes, it's an amazing card. The Rainbow Salvation is also great. But if I could use Shifter, Shifter was always the priority to use.
Right.
Because I've also had like games where I would have dropped the Shifter. The tournament player would have basically passed with like little to no M board. So then, let's say it's like I went first, I dropped Shifter, they went second, they couldn't play, then I went again. So we have passed the 2 turns of Shifter. Then I would use like the Foolish Burial Goods to just like add this and add the Necro Valley, and it would just basically close out the game, because they couldn't set up a board with the Shifter, and now whenever they try to, they just can't because of the Necro Valley.
Yeah. I was going to ask like how often it came up where the goods conflicted with the Shifter. I'm sure you drew good Shifter like plenty amount of times, but how often did it conflict where you were like, maybe I should cut goods entirely? I don't know if you considered that.
I've never thought about cutting the 2 goods. Like, I did think the ratio I was gonna play, because I was first thinking like maybe just play 1 because I can search it, but then it just didn't like come up enough. So I was like, I'm just gonna play 2, and if I go with Shifter, I will just see what I'm playing against, and if it's like anything that uses the Grave, Shifter will just be our priority, and then Foolish Burial Goods will just be to close out the game.
Yeah, I think that's some solid
because of
theory.
Yeah, and because like it's not just like you add Necro Valley, right? You still also add another name. It can just be like a rainbow, the Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, or it can be the Pegasus. So it just
Yeah.
like the extra body, which you also need.
Yeah, it's your extra rota because you have
Yeah,
3 Pegasus, 2 Bond, and 2 Goods. So that's 7 cards. That's like the same number of cards used for Alistair, right? You have 3 Alistair, 3
yeah,
Meltdown, and the 1 Terraforming. So it's like that's the perfect number. And I think the math works out where if you have 5 cards in your deck, that's like it's the highest chance of seeing it without increasing the chance of seeing multiples, if that makes sense. So if you have 5 cards, you have the 3 Shifter and the 2 Goods. You have the highest chance of seeing one of them without increasing your chance more of seeing multiple. So obviously you don't want to see 2 of them combined or multiple of any, you know. Even 2 Goods
yeah.
conflicts with each other, and then 2 Shifter conflicts with each other.
Well, like if I drew the second Goods and I like didn't need to use it, I would often send like a Miracle just so I have a
Yeah.
little bit of extra recursion to go with it. Because like some people like forget that this card has a second effect where you can banish and place another in the spell and trap zone, but
Mhm.
eventually when you run out of Pegasus, you just need that extra bounce to go Conclave bounce again, and then your entire engine is just running again.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I
Well,
guess
and then
just
of
keep it
course,
going.
yeah, then of course like the mine Necro Valley,
Mhm.
Necro Valley came up almost every single game.
Yeah.
Mine also came up, and when it came up, it was very fun to like play around because we would just like go with the Pegasus effect, and then just bounce or destroy the Pegasus, and then the board will be emptied again. The opponent
Mhm.
couldn't play, and then just keep on recycling conclaves until they didn't have anything, and then with your last conclave, just bounce it to end and go for game.
Mhm. So yeah,
That
two
was
two like auto win cards right here, Mystic Mind and
yeah,
Necro Valley. How often would you say you won games with either of them? Which one won
yeah.
the most games, would you say?
Oh, by far Necro Valley.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
Necro Valley's insane.
especially like yesterday when I had that first game against Tierlement. Game 1 I just like played Necro Valley and I had Conclave Miracle and he just said Scoop, and then just game 2 he went I go first, normal Rhino, I said Change Shifter, he went set 3, just went Lightning Storm and he said Scoop, and it was like a 10-minute match and we were done.
Sheesh, man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Necro Valley is a hell of a card, and all the people like just trying to read the card and like not understand what it does,
Mhm.
like misplaying as well, because some people would like summon elf and then you say like activate elf, and I'm like, man, there's still a Necro Valley here, and they would be like, ah
My
shit,
brother
and
in
then just
Christ, there's a Necro Valley.
yeah. Then we have the MVP. Prosperity is
Oh,
just
100%.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like for me, the reason also why prosperity in this type of version is kind of a must. Like, I've also tried it with Pot of Extravagance, but because then you also had to change up the extra deck, it was a little bit iffy.
Yeah.
And it's like you needed the prosperity because if you would open a floodgate, you needed to have some Crystal Beast support to back it up. And if you
Yeah.
opened Crystal Beast, you would need some floodgates to back it up. And then prosperity would get you either one.
Mm.
And that was probably like the most important thing about the whole deck, because it was just like you go with the prosperity, you look at your hand, like, do I have the crystal beast that I need? Yeah, okay, so what
Yeah.
extra like floodgate or trap or whatever extender can I search here? And if you just like didn't have it, then you could like go like, okay, I don't have like any Pegasus access, I'll just grab any Pegasus access and from there I'll go.
Yeah. It's just 3 copies of almost any other card in your deck.
Especially because like the most important cards you just play at 3, right? So you'll just see
Yeah.
them way more often with prosperity.
Exactly. Did you find yourself banishing 6 all the time, or did you banish 3 sometimes?
I have banish 6 every single time.
Okay. Yeah, sounds about right.
Because especially when you go in the first game, so these already are like 2 because the first game you don't have Super Poly in,
Right.
so these can all go.
Mhm.
You can cut the Gaga Cowboy, it can go. The Win can go because the Village Block is not in there, and oftentimes I
Mhm.
would also let this go, and then you would also already be X6, right? So that's just
Yeah.
completely free, and then all the important Xyzes and all the important links that
Yeah.
you would need are still there. And then you
Dugar
have
as
just
if you
like
didn't draw the salvation.
yeah, exactly. Like even though the Bagushka and the Beastweather are the ones that I've made the most, the Garrus and stuff, like I always just let the Dugaris in there because you just never know when you need to recursion from grave or need to draws, because this is such a universal card.
Yeah. 100%. And then you said triple tack didn't really perform too well, huh?
No, it's the one time I could use it was against Flunder, and I just said I want to steal your avian because they had the avian for the negate, and he was like, "Just chain avian to negate," and then from there I could just play through. But other than that, it has never come up.
Yeah, might as well be like an imperm at that point, huh?
Yeah, well, for me it was just very easy. I was like, let's just cut this, play a third one of this, and we'll have 40 cards, and then we're done, basically. Because then we'll have more consistency because of the less cards in deck, and we have better consistency and extra grind game with this. So yeah, that was just better than these two. Not great.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, this is standard.
Yeah,
the one-off.
How often did you draw it? How often did you draw the Salvation?
I didn't. No, I drew it one time on day 1, and I think I drew it 2 times on day 2.
Did you use Dugaris to pitch it, or would you use?
I tried to, but then I got gammed by Flunder. On Dugaris. Yeah, that was one of the matches I lost.
Wow.
Because I did not expect, I expected something from Flunder, but I did not expect them to go Gamma.
Yeah.
If it went through, I would have been there because I would have been with the Secret Village lock, and Flunder, Secret Village lock plus Tikaboo is FTK against Flunder. They can't go through it because the only out they have is the continuous spell, and if they can't use it because of Secret Village, then they can't tribute my card, so they can't go through it. So if the Dugaris would have resolved, this would have been in a grave. It would just been add this, add a Pegasus, and from there you would already been with that lock.
Yeah, that makes sense. So cool.
But that was just yeah. Now this is also standard 3 Conclave. I've the 9 out of 10 games I win, I just go through 3 Conclaves. You just the bounce in the end phase and just keeping the control with there. It's just great.
Yeah.
And then you just add it back. The amount of times where I would have this on field and then just been recycling 2 Pegasuses and then every turn just add this card back, it was insane.
Yeah. So one more question I had about Conclave actually is, did it ever conflict with Shifter at all when you were going first?
It did. When I had Shifter, I would of course turbo out a Miracle because it wouldn't do much. And if I would have already drawn it in my opening hand, I'll just use it for the summon effect to get a little bit more bodies on field.
Yeah.
Because the amount of times where I would have gone effect Miracle, destroy, and then just effect summon the Carbuncle, and then just place bodies on field, and the opponent would be where did these DDO come from? And then that would also work. But it's a little conflicting. But then it also was I can't use it in my opponent's turn, but the moment I go into my turn, I can use it again, so it was also fine.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Did you side out Shifter for whenever you would go first, and just keep it in for going second?
It depended with the matchup. If I played against Tournament, I just I did side it out because I played these. These were basically the things I would side in for Shifter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because against Tournament, I basically always just turbo out Necro Valley and turbo out the negate, and then it's almost always done with there. But if I can't get there, I would want something like this.
Yeah.
But the Shifters was quite easy to side out, but also sometimes it was just do I want to side it out? Do I have anything better?
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
I played 3 games against Flunder, and against Flunder it was just Shifters out, Lightning Storm in, just standard. Immediately just went out and in, because it's Shifter doesn't do something against all decks. It does something against Grave decks. It does a lot against Grave decks. But the moment the opponent is I don't really use my Grave much, even with Sprite, then it's already a little bit less good. So then other cards blowout cards are just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then next up is the floodgates.
Yeah,
the great floodgates.
Yeah, the floodgates were crazy here.
All the rounds I played were or Sprite or Tearlament or Flunder, except for round 1. That was Drytron. And Drytron just under summon limits couldn't do anything. So eventually they were yes, I'll ritual summon this, and I was okay, that's your second summon, effect Conclave, bounce it to hand again, and they would say pass turn, and then I would be alright, now you're basically dead.
Yeah, there we go. how was Summon Limit going second? I always see Summon Limit as just a going first card. You know, Tiki Boo can help break boards. You know, they control multiple types. You send them in grave, but Summon Limit, you know, more of a going first option. How did it fare for you in the main deck?
Well, I mean, that's also why I played 2 Summon Limit and 3 Tikaboo, because Tikaboo, I always want to see it when I go first, but when I go second and I see it, it's not that bad, because like in the draw phase, I could activate it, and then I'll just like to watch my opponent like remove the half of his board because they have too many types. But like the Summon Limit, it was very good, but it was also kind of bricky in the sense that indeed going second, it doesn't do much.
Yeah.
Like it would more be like discard fodder if I have something to discard for, because well, in the main deck there's not really much to discard for, but with side deck with like Super Poly it is, but
Yeah.
other than that it's just like going first, it's very strong and it's very easily to play around, because the summons I would have was like well, going first it's still like face down, so you can do any summons you want. Then in your opponent's turn it would only be like the summon Carbuncle and then summon a Pegasus, and then in your turn you would like summon like a Zenith and another Pegasus, and that would be like the playing around 2 summons, because you could just place bodies and just go on from there in either opponent's turn, and your opponent could like only like do a little bit and then they have to stop.
Yeah. Would you change Summon Limit in the future? Take it out of your main deck, maybe delegate it to the side deck, replace it with anything else, or is it going to be staying in your main deck?
I would probably cut it for something, also with like the new Darkwind Blast stuff going up, but I don't know what yet, because right now it's pretty decent and I don't have anything I would really want to main instead of it. That really depends on how Bisted will change up the meta, because if it really like shifts up on Tearlaments, then it would also be a little bit difficult. I mean, against Bisted, we also still win with Necro Valley because they can move the cards out of the grave, but then Summon Limit is also quite good because the bodies are quite big, so I don't really want too many of them on the field.
Yeah. Well, cool. Do you want to go ahead and talk about your extra deck first?
Extra deck first?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, these two are basic.
Yeah, they're pretty standard. I guess what I wanted to touch on the most was the Daigusto Emerald. So how did that come up?
I used it, I think, 2 times in day 1. I didn't use it day 2. It's for some very specific situations, most of which are when I have Super Poly sided in because of the discards. Because when I was doing the discards, I would often have like some cards in the grave that some monsters in the grave that would have been better somewhere else. Like one of my Zeniths would still be there, or like maybe 2 because I couldn't go there. Like I've one game I hard opened Rainbow Dragon and basically nothing else except for Super Poly. And I needed like the stuff that was on hand was like good, but I was missing the Crystal Beast target. Like I was missing a Pegasus.
Yeah.
So I just like decided I think it was like Shifter, Super Poly, and then I don't know, probably Conclave. It was one of those. So I just like decided to like go just have this and then just set the Super Poly. So I discarded it with Super Poly and then eventually went with Daigusto and then shuffled it back to then go Zenith effect, summon from deck, and then add it back to hand and go from there.
Okay.
Because it's like basically a way to just only play the one Rainbow Dragon. If you draw it in your opening hand and you like can't really go anything with it, then you can just like discard it and then shuffle it back with Daigusto, because you can also discard it with Dugaris.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, that kind of technically means like, because I mean, if you draw the Rainbow Dragon, that means that you can't make a rank 4. But then, I mean, it's kind of like you need a rank 4 in order to make a rank 4 if you're doing that Daigusto play. I guess I'm not following that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the moment you can't really go with your Zenith, it's always quite harder. But you can always go with the rank 4 with the additional normal summon. So you can often still get there, even when you have like can't use discard.
Yeah.
But it was more like for if I have a weird hand and I need something to do with it, and I have like some cards engraved, like some monster engraved that I don't want to have there, like the Rainbow Dragon, then I could just like grab it back from the deck and then just go from there. That was basically the main reason to play it, and also because I just had so much free spots because I just didn't know what to play else.
You don't want to play Lightning Chidori?
No, I don't really like it. It's
he's great. He's just purely for going second and like cracking boards.
Yeah, like for me, when I would go second, I would or just go with the Crystal Beast, and if I wouldn't go for that, then I would go with like a little Zeus line.
Yeah.
Like those were the ones that came up going second, and that was about it.
Yeah,
Maybe
for
like
sure.
sometimes the Dugaris, but like the Chidori was for me like I would have to use like the Zenith effect or the additional normal summon to go to rank 4, and then it would just go to Chidori that only uses something in my turn and then just doesn't have anything for the opponent's next turn if they can come back.
Yeah.
So it was not
that's
really
why
worth it.
you attack with Chidori and then make Zeus, right?
Yeah, you could still do that, but it's just like the two material like the two extra materials on Zeus that was great. Like like people can play through one Zeus, but when you can Zeus them again, they're also like I can't do anything because they try to make the place, you destroy their place, and then they set a couple cards and say end phase, and you destroy it again, and then you just like start beating them down.
Yeah. It is kind of a Nambo and Crystal Beast, kind of like Zeus, because all of your advantage is on the field, kind of like True Draco. So it's like if you Zeus your field, that kind of sucks. But yeah, if you're just a good player and you're just wary of that, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, and especially like going second, like if one Pegasus is this like Zeus line, right? So
yeah,
then you'll only have used one resource, and then after that you can just still grow on.
Yeah,
because 100%. There wouldn't also be any other Crystal Beast on field because like the Zenith effect is negated, so it's like only the 2 Crystal Beasts, and then go there and then attack, make Zeus, blow up a couple cards, and then from there just set 3 and let's say your opponent goes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so would Cobalt Eagle be the default target for Zenith? For Zenith's effect, by the way?
I still go with Pegasus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I basically let Cobalt Eagle stay in the deck as long as possible, because especially when I have the grind game, I will just like want to grab out the other extra 4, and then because I'm already recycling all the Pegasus, like I want to have as many Pegasus in like recycle through than have the Cobalt Eagle.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. I would have never guessed that, but yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's just like, especially when like later on you can still draw the T-Kaboom. That's also one of the reasons, because then also you will need this to go to any 2 your XCs. Like it's just a very especially. It's like same with the Carbuncle. You want to have it in the deck to just like summon with this, or just get with this, or summon. Well, you don't summon Carbuncle with Zenith, but you want to have them in the deck or a different place. But you just have to want to access them when you can and not when you have to.
Yeah. I guess this is a question more for the main deck, but just I just love this deck. But did the 3rd Zenith ever come up, or was 2 perfectly fine the whole run?
I used like the 1 for the effects, and then the other I just used as a beat stick or just added back to hand for pressure. Like the 2 was fine. I didn't have a game where I was like I really need the 3rd one.
Okay, nice. Yeah, and the 3rd one can be bricky too. I like having the Cobalt Eagle as a normal summonable Crystal Beast, because sometimes you just need that. Drawing Ruby is like fine in this deck. And
also the thing about this as well is 2 Pegasus Eagle Zenith is exactly 4K, 8K.
Yeah, because 36,
like,
14.
This is 36, 14, and then just like with that's 8K.
That's awesome.
So that was also something that came up, because then we just like have for the resources and then just go Carbuncle, like we summon, and then normal summon this, and then you'll be there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then when was your Charmer of choice for Secret Village? Did IP or Nightmare access code ever come up?
The Nightmare did once, but the IP and access code never came up.
Okay. I know you mentioned that searching the Pegasus is more important than searching the Zenith. I 100% agree. But like, was there ever a time where you found yourself wanting to climb into the Underworld Goddess with the Light Charmer instead of the Wind Charmer? Or
Not
access
really.
code or anything really?
I would want to go access code sometimes, but like also with Necro Valley you can't use access code, so
yeah,
it's also like a little bit hard to use. And like I use the unicorn because some cards I just rather want to spin than just like have back to the hand because they're just annoying to go back every turn with them.
Yeah. So did
And
did
other
any of
world?
those links come up? Any of those other links? So IP came up,
No,
unicorn, access code.
no, just unicorn and win, of course. Win was
Okay.
just great with the secret village.
Nice.
But the Underworld Goddess was mostly there for stuff that has a towers, like stuff
Yeah.
like Edegnister that has a towers. Well, for some reason, like some people play the Mech towers, and if they would for some reason not have a game with that Mech towers, then you can still just remove it with this, right?
Yeah.
So it's
And
like I don't know if I want to cut it or don't cut it, but you might need it sometime, but you won't use it most of the time.
yeah. I was playing against a runic sprite deck that made Avermax protected by IP, so I had to you either Zeus it or you just Underworld Goddess it, and I found it much
I
easier to
actually
Underworld Goddess.
played against that last week as well, and I just learned like special attack directly makes Zeus, and then it was gone.
Yeah. That makes sense. So yeah,
And then 2 super poly targets because
yeah.
super poly is a card.
So how often did Super Poly come up?
I would say almost every game.
Wow, really? Did you side it in pretty much against anything going second?
Yes, I sided in against some decks going first.
Interesting.
Like against what was it? I think I played one time against Pure Sprite, so I sided in against that.
Interesting.
Because
okay.
the Super Poly, because they can't like chain to it, they can't like do any dumb things with it, right? So like the moment they have like a blue and jet on field, you just go Super Poly and they're gone.
Yeah.
And I also had
they
like
just disappear.
they just disappear. Like where did they go? And now I have a Garua. But I also use Super Poly a lot against Flunder. Because eventually when they would like normally they go to barrier statue, right? But the moment they notice that you like only summon wind monsters, like you only summon these two, then they just like go Emp and Avian. And then you can just super poly and let them all go away and then just win from there.
Yeah. That's really sweet. So you would do super poly going first against them too?
Yeah, I would say super poly was one of the best cards in the side deck, and also like one of the things I added like last in because I was like thinking, do I want to use this? And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna play these two and then side in as super polys, and then we'll just go from there. But they were very great.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds great. And Super Poly is one of the most busted cards of the format, and it's a GX card, so gotta love it.
Of course. And like eventually when you go through your turn against some decks, you will like draw a second shifter, and those are like perfect cards to discard with Super Poly because you won't use them for anything else.
Right. Did you ever discard the Rainbow Dragon and then recycle it with the Gars? I remember you said that one time, but it's like...
Yeah, I have the one time where I hard opened it, I discarded it with Super Poly. Other than that, I often like more search it and then use it with this, so I would rather keep it in hand.
Yeah.
But sure. If I had to do it, I did discard it because I could get it back. That's also one of the points why discard is in there. Like you don't have to worry about like super polymerization and discard this because you can always get it back if you really need to.
Yeah. So I guess going into the side deck, I had a couple questions. How did Dark Ruler perform? I want to know how Dark Ruler performed in this deck specifically because this is more of a control deck, but it can OTK you out of nowhere. But just kind of wanted to see what your reasoning was on Dark Ruler versus something like Nibiru.
Dark Ruler was mostly just for Sprite because this deck has like a great matchup against Element. But against Sprite, it can be a little hard. So, like, Dark Ruler just shuts off their board. Now, like, the problem was with this YCS that the deck I really didn't account for was Runic Sprite. Like, I knew it was strong, but I didn't expect it for so many people to play it and just gain so much advantage. And I also don't really know what else I would have played in there except for Dark Ruler, but if there was something that was like incredible against Runic Sprite, then I would put that in instead of Dark Ruler because that will be the Sprite variant you'll see the most.
That makes sense, 100%. And then Yeah, so we talked about Super Poly. How did the back row hate fare with the Cosmics and the Lightning Storms?
The Cosmics were against stuff like the Lunateer variant, where they would like get the anti-spell and stuff. You could like quick play banish it because anti-spell really sucks against this deck. And Lightning Storm was just amazing. Like Lightning Storm with the back row, like when especially with tier elements, you would just like go shifter. They would put some back row down, like a little Suliak or whatever, and they would just go like, yes, Lightning Storm. All those traps get banished. He gets no effect, and then it would just be for free.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, I remember you told me about that with the tier matchup. And how is Lightning Storm compared to something like Evenly Matched? Why did you choose Storm over Evenly?
Well, I would probably just like cut the Dark Rulers and play Evenly Matched because I do really like Lightning Storm, especially for back row.
Okay.
But the main reason for that is I do not have Evenly Matched.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So right now I would just like say like cut the Dark Rulers and just play Evenly Matched. Or even if you want, you can cut the Lightning Storm, play Evenly Matched, or cut these and play Evenly Matched. It doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
Because Evenly Matched is just one hell of a card, and if I would have played it, I would have probably made the top 64, because there were some games that if I had something different in my side, I would have get there.
Really? It made that big of a difference, huh?
Yeah, especially like against decks like Runic Sprite. I just needed something like that, because I've played against Runic Sprite 3 times, and I've won one and the other were lost.
Yeah.
So...
And how did the 3 DD ground work out for you? Were you wanting to, the 3 DD ground versus maybe like 2 ground 1 appointer? I don't know if you ever tested the appointer.
Not really tested a pointer, but it's different dimension ground. It was more for like when I would want to turbo out Necro Valley, I could side out shifter for these. So I just have basically had a shifter, but then without legs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, DD ground is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's like it said it's only the monsters, because sometimes I would also want them like the spells and traps to also get banished. That's why shifter is better. But for when you have the situation where you have to go Necro Valley, then the DDG does enough.
Yeah. Secret Village just an MVP.
Secret Village.
Yeah.
Secret Village is Secret Village if you open this against, well, not Sprite Runic is hard, but if you open it against pure Runic or against Flunder or against whatever, then you just win.
Yeah. No, that's
because this is just a 1-card Secret Village lock.
Yeah, so you did Flu, you did it against Runic. What other decks did you side in Secret Village against that were just like insane?
Well, in the side event, I played against pure Mystic Mind.
Oh wow! So that was insane.
Yeah.
Did you put it in against Tier at all, or mostly Tier was just Necro Valley?
Tiers are just Necro Valley. Sprites, I also oftentimes just use Necro Valley because it would like turn off their Sprite Elf, and the recursion every turn is also pretty strong.
And then maybe
it was
something
mostly...
like, what about like Sword Soul?
I did not play Sword Soul. I don't think I would have used it for Sword Soul because the Tenjis are more annoying than the Sword Soul monsters.
Yeah, 100%.
Because when they go like normal summon Moye special token, I'll just like bounce the Moye and then let's see what you have now.
Yeah, right.
Because like they can't do anything with the token, and then if you have Necro Valley up, like all their Tenjis are dead.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And then I noticed you didn't include like Pankratops and Feather Duster. Is there any reason why those weren't included? Especially Pank against something like Sprite.
I mean, they are great cards, but I was like a little bit limited on stuff because I wanted to play quite a bunch. Right now, if I would change it, I would like probably just cut the 3 Dark Rulers. And then just like play like the 1 extra Harpy, so you have like the 4 blowouts, the Pank, and I would actually play a 3rd Foolish Burial Good.
Okay, and then the other thing I was wondering is, would you side in a 3rd Miracle for going first? Especially because we want to counter stuff like Evenly Matched Feather Duster going into us going second.
I mean, I only like search 1 basically each game. Like I have been funniest ones where he went like evenly matched, and then I set negate, and he went like another evenly matched. But then, I mean, then you just like kind of have it, right? There's not really much I can do about that.
Yeah, right.
And then for other than that, I just wouldn't want to see like an opening answer that's just like Miracle. That's
Yeah. So you would never side in a third Miracle for going first at all?
no.
Okay.
I would do the third goods just because like the games where you can go village spellcaster lock, you want to go village spellcaster lock. So then the goods is just great.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Was Win the only spellcaster you have for Secret Village pretty much? I'm trying to look. I don't
Yes.
think there's any other spellcasters, huh?
Well,
Oh, Shifter's a
when-
spellcaster.
yeah,
pretty
Shifter
sure.
is a spellcaster, but well, they're not really gonna summon that.
Yeah, Tribute
when
Summon
I
Shifter.
still-
That's fun.
Nah, when I still had the extravagance build, I actually played another card. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this card because I had I needed the
Whoa,
second name,
let's
and I only
go.
had one win.
Oh, Puzzle Amino's great. Oh, it's
Yeah, like
amazing.
because he's also a spellcaster, and you can like play it if you summon the Carbuncle scene if you can get there. So it was very awkward, and I would not recommend it because win is just 10 times better. But
Yeah.
I also didn't need a second spellcaster because if they do like out the win, I'll just conclave bound the secret village again, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah. What do you think about Zombie World? So Zombie World thrown in the side that destroys Fluonderies, destroys Sword Soul. I want to see what you think about that. Tri Brigade for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would say right now it would get a little bit better, but it's like it was for this YCS it was just kind of weird because I mostly just anticipated on Tearlament and any Tearlament versions.
Hmm.
And I did like see the Tearlament Tri-Brigade stuff, but then against Tri-Brigade, like Necro Valley also does the same thing. Like they can't play.
Yeah, right.
So it was like you could use the Zombie World, but most of the time, like the Secret Village or Necro Valley was better, and I would just always leave in the mine.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
no matter what I sided, it was if I side a field spell, it's always like this one for this one, and the mine always stays in because you'll never know when you need it.
Yeah. The cool thing about Zombie World that I've found though, against because Fluonderies is one of our harder matchups, would you say, right?
Yeah, it's like it also depends on what they open, but it's like probably mostly dice roll game.
Yeah, because what I'm thinking is Zombie World's pretty good against them going second even too, because then they have Dreaming Town, they have the map, they play a lot during your turn. If you Zombie World, then it stops them from doing a lot of that.
Yeah,
There's something to
I would
consider.
say it's very. Of course, you could consider it, and it's also again like especially because it's side deck. It's also like what gets played around you the most.
Hmm.
Like especially where I play like my locals, it's mostly just like Tearlaments or graveyard decks.
Yeah.
So for me, Zombie World would do something, but Necro Valley would just always like be the better option.
Yeah, that makes sense. 100%. Pretty much, I just have a couple final questions for you, and we'll call it a night. So,
Alright.
what would you say the deck's weaknesses are overall during your tournament run? What did you found out the deck struggled with the most?
It struggled a lot with Runic Sprite.
Yeah.
Runic Sprite just like gains so much advantage, and then they just like keep on popping your spells and traps, and it's just like you can't really get through it.
Yeah.
Like you can hope that you like open shifter, they'll don't have anything, and that you can go from there, and maybe have like the village spellcaster lock. Like if you can open lock against it, then 9 out of 10 times you probably win.
Mhm.
But if you can't get there because like you lost a dice roll, so it's game 3, then you probably lose.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
which is unfortunate.
other than that, what's the weakness? Also, one of the big weaknesses of this deck is like the worse the opponent's deck is, the better it gets against this deck. Probably like the hardest game where I really was like stressing on like how I need to win this was against the Tritron game 3.
Mhm.
Because like the Drytron would just like do so much stuff that like this deck wouldn't really do much about it, because this deck was like more focused on meta and like the top tier decks.
Yeah.
Because I believe it was last Thursday I actually went to a locals with this like a different version of this list because I was gonna like test some things. and I played against Ancient Warriors, and like this deck just got completely obliterated by Ancient Warriors because they just do stuff that this deck didn't anticipate for.
Yeah. I got destroyed by an Ancient Warrior players at locals, actually, so it happens to the best of us. He went undefeated that night.
He did. Oh, I have a mate of mine that did that too. It's like how the deck does nothing, and then for some reason it does something.
Such a sleeper deck. Ancient Warrior is actually crazy.
But I would say that's like the weakness. Like the less good the opponent's deck is built, the worse the matchup gets.
Yeah, just because that kind of just falls into why anti-meta decks like aren't the meta, because there's always going to be something that it isn't prepared for. I would say this is very much an anti-meta deck, and so
it is.
We're maining shifters, but if we're playing against something that isn't meta, that means we're gonna have a tougher time.
Yeah, it will also be interesting to see what happens with Bisteds coming up, because it would be quite a little bit harder, I would say.
Yeah,
like we don't have that many lights or darks. Like we basically only have shifter if we use that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like the new cards that come out for Tearlament and Sprite are also just very good. So
yeah, we'll have to see how the meta shakes up. So that kind of goes into the next one. Just how do you see Crystal Beast moving forward? Do you think you're going to keep playing the deck? What do you think the future is for the deck right now? What tier do you think it lands in? And then where do you think it's going to be at post the Darkwing Blast?
I mean, I'm still gonna play it. Like I because I have like Tearlament and Sprite, I will also test some stuff with that because like I want to play with the new cards coming up. But like Tearlament will always like be Crystal Beast will always be like a deck that I can just like grab and just play again because I have pretty much everything for it. Mm-hmm. Like except for like the prosperities that I borrowed, I have like everything just lying around.
Yeah.
But it's like with Darkwing Blast, I don't know. It will maybe just like still be a sleeper deck because we do only have like the wind attributes, and then these all get banished. Basically, this stays in hand, so they except for shifter, they can't really summon anything. But I mean, the new Tearlament like fusion just says like negate summon and like negate a special summon, and which can make it quite hard to get through it.
Mm.
The Sprite also just gets like more consistent because they can now just make like the totally awesome with Sprite Elf like more consistent again. So that's also quite hard.
Yeah.
Because like you need some stuff to go through with Crystal Beast because that deck is still pretty fragile. It's very much less fragile than it was before with all the new spells, but it's still sometimes you like just need the cards, and if they can't go through because like they have double toad with more recursion, then it's just like not good enough.
Yeah. We need to stick a Sapphire Pegasus is what needs to happen. Once we hit a Sapphire Pegasus to the board, we're pretty much good.
Yeah, unless the Sapphire Pegasus, of course, also gets stolen and set, and then you'll just be there like, yes.
Yeah, that's
my card.
You just don't activate effect. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll just play without effects. It will go great.
Yeah, skill drain. Yeah, that's fine. So if tier 1 is strong meta, tier 2 is weak meta, tier 3 is strong rogue, tier 4 is weak rogue, where would you put Crystal Beast?
I would say like for this YCS, it was a strong rogue option. For upcoming tournaments, it will be a weaker rogue option.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because
so, tier 3 moving down to tier 4.
Yeah, just because of like this, especially this YCS, it was I eventually like Runic Sprite won the YCS because they just no one expected them, and then just like they showed up and they just went through everything. But still, like most of the decks that were played were a Tearlament variant, and for that reason alone, it was like this is great. And now with Bisteds, you'll see a little bit less Tearlament, even though the new support also go out.
Yeah,
because like Bisteds are just annoying for that deck. So then this deck will also like just be a little bit weaker because you won't have that free matchup.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With Tearlament Ishizu, like the moment like the Ishizu comes out, like Tearlament Ishizu will just be like tier 0/tier 0.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like after we had a ban list in which like they are gonna hit something from Tearlament Ishizu, like they did the same thing with OCG and they will hit like something here as well. Then the mills will like the deck will be like a little bit weaker, and then it still like gets played a lot because it's still strong. And then especially in like those types of meta, Crystal Beast will just like go up again.
Yeah.
Because it will just like be a little bit stronger, because you'll see like the more tier limits you'll see, the better Crystal Beast will be.
Yeah. Why play Exorcister, folks, when you could play Crystal Beast? We have
Exactly.
1-card Dweller, we have Searchable Necro Valley, and main deck Shifter.
Yeah, like it's just like you could say it looks a lot like Exorcister because you play it basically the same way, but in my opinion, this is a little bit better than Exorcister, except for the fact that we don't have a card like Marva.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have Marva, but at the same time, we can play proactively. You know, the problem with Exorcister, it's very reactive, right? But we can OTK out of nowhere.
Yeah. So that's also why like this deck is like a great contender, like with Exorcister, to like just see who can beat Tyraman better.
Yeah, right. Is there anything else you wanted to cover up before we call it a night, or before we call it here? You know, you're just starting your day, but it's 12:30 over here.
No, I think that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Tobias, for joining us tonight and being able to sit here for an hour just talking about the deck and the future of Crystal Beast, in-depth Conclave Control.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, it's time about your tournament experience. Congratulations again. This was amazing. Going down in Crystal Beast history, day 2 at YCS, and hopefully we'll see Crystal Beast keep rising up in the future as your list goes viral within the Crystal Beast community.
I actually do have one thing to mention, which was more of a funny thing than like actually like an important thing. Mm-hmm. The moment I had that feature match, like in between like that round and like the next round, you see like a little when you go on card market and like look for the Crystal Beast, like the Sapphire Packers, like the old secret, right? You would have like the little graph going like up and down, and then just like one big spike going up.
I saw you. Yeah, I saw that. That was insane. You know, Crystal Beast on the feature match, making sure that
there was also like one of the vendors there. He had like an Italian Ultimate Rare Tobias Tiger, and like the moment that feature match was done, he just like made it go up with $10.
Sheesh. Yeah. Did he end up selling it?
He did actually.
Wow. Insane.
On the card market, like when you go to the best sellers, like the structure deck also just like went to the second most sold.
Wow.
Like everyone was just like ordering the structure deck.
The structure deck was legendary. I don't know why they made it so busted, but they did, and I'm happy because now anyone who wants those staples has to touch Crystal Beast cards in order to get them.
Exactly.
Oh, pretty cool. My heart goes out, though, to that poor sap who bought the Topaz Tiger from the vendor, who then found out that Topaz Tiger wasn't played even in our deck. So,
yeah.
But
that's about it, I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Tobias. I appreciate you coming on, and hey, I wish you the best in your ventures and your Crystal Beast journey.
Thank you.
Have a great night, my dude.
You too.
What a beautiful man.